Hey there guys, it's Kage coming at you for our conclusion of the Guild War season. Essentially, I want to go over some things I've kind of learned as we're going, maybe even give you guys a couple of tips and overall thoughts of the situation. For the most part, matchmaking on the higher end, people say it's potentially broken, and I mean, we've had a guild fight the same guild twice in one bracket because not enough of opponents. We've also had people cry foul because of, the disparity of the opponents in the matchmaking. And let's get this out of the way very quickly, this first part here. If you're like a 6 mil power guild, 30 mil power guild, if you're in 4 or 5, you don't belong there. And in fact, they should probably put some heavier restrictions on there because one, you're not winning. If you are, it's because some other super unprepared guild is there and you beat them. Well, congratulations, you took a win. But for every guild I looked at that went in there unprepared, they ended up in like the 3K mark. So anybody out there trying to like throw you into a higher battlefield where you're obviously not prepared, those people are stupid. I will throw that out here completely. From the data I've collected looking at the guilds, there's one guild that did stand out and did well in terms of going to Battlefield 5 where realistically they didn't belong. However, that guild is a 92 million power guild. So, although they may not, I mean, personally, when you look at some of the top contenders in Battlefield 5, some of the players we have here, let's look at Iron Warriors. Iron Warriors is 256 million. Alpha Legion is 404 million. Bloody Rose is 317. Weavers of Battlefield 4 is 261. You know, these are guilds that belong in Battlefield 5 or in Weaver's case 4. I know I like ripping on them because people do it to me too. So, but I mean, Red Crusaders is in 5 and they're 137 and they're kind of on the lower end, and they did pretty well. I mean, they are rank 7 and they are on like the lower end of the power spectrum for this. I mean, there's a couple of Heresy Lounge. Let's see where they're at actually in terms of about 158, and they did pretty good too. So I mean, realistically, if you're in 5, you should probably have over 100 mil power to even contend there. I know it's subject to what you build in boxes and things. Like, if you've got a guild leader who's sending you to Battlefield 5 with a bunch of level 20s and you've got like no real foothold, nothing, you should probably go find another guild if you care about war and you want to actually win war, get somewhere. Because again, the guilds that went in there got absolutely decimated, destroyed left and right. They did not place well. They did not do very well. Again, the outlier being that like 92 mil guild. I think in their case, because of some of the super weak guilds being there and the disparity of power, some of the cases I gave you being like 200 mil, 400 mil, that they were more likely to get somebody on the lower end, and of course they were going to decimate those lower end guilds too. It just makes sense. They could just absolutely destroy them. So I mean, if you were looking to do Battlefield 5 and you were looking to teach some of these people a lesson, that's not a bad way to play. You're still going to get matched up against a behemoth at some point, but I mean, it's looking like you could rank relatively well if you have about 100 to 200 mil power and you're somewhat organized. You could get some nice matches there. But to go in there like sub 100 mil, especially, I mean, a 6 mil power guild, when I think about that, how much power do I have as just like an individual player? I've got 2.8 mil. So I almost have 50% of that guild's total power. And I'm over here in Battlefield 2 because I'm still working to get D3s. And I know people are like, well, you should go in there uncapped and it's fun and challenge. And it's like, bro, I'm going to challenge myself playing Wukong. I'm going to challenge myself on a dance pad. I'm not trying to challenge myself in a mobile game. I'm sorry. It's just not my way. Not my thing. My account's less than a year old. We've been trying to do our best. I mean, I've proved it now 2 months in a row. If you get Battlefield 2, if you win all 5 matches with a decent score, you wipe out every opponent, you will get top 250. And the top 250 box is not half bad because, let's look at it this way. After 250, you got to be top 100 to get the next box. So 6K tokens to an extra 750 if you get 51 to 100. Yeah, I'll take that all day. Now, the other thing I wanted to bring up is the matchmaking can be a bit wonky. Like, our first 4 matches, we didn't get any full guilds. In fact, we only got full guilds for 5 and 6. In one of the guilds, we were actually higher power. We usually aren't. We're lower, but we had higher power against them. And in the other, we were about even. I think they had us by maybe a mil or two, or we had them by a mil or two. But it was just, I don't know. I thought the auto enlist was helping, but it seems like there's still people have issues with recruitment and other things, so they were always just missing a couple of people to help with the roster. But I'm looking back now, and I'm curious because there was one guild we fought. I want to say it was day 3 or day 4, and they were pretty good. They did a good job. I think they actually got close to potentially wiping us out. And the funny thing about that is that that guild was down 2 people, and looking back on some of the scores and everything, I actually think they did better than the full guilds. I'm looking now to see where they ended at. Let's pop this up here. Okay, there's that guild. Where did we end here? Yeah, I think it was day 3 because day 4 wasn't that great. Let's see. Yeah, it was day 3. So day 3, they got around, I want to say, 343k score, which is a high end against us. And let me pop on my phone real quick and we'll take a look. I want to see what the last guild got against us. So you guys get to see my phone a little bit here. I don't have anything proprietary, so we're good. But where is that? You get to see cat. Oh, here it is. Okay. These guys did 326. So the full guild, I feel bad putting them on blast because there's stuff there. If you can kind of see it, it's a little wonky. It's hard to see. The full guild did a little bit less than the guild with 2 people down. So yeah, I don't know. It's people matter, but it just seems like there's definitely coordination. There's other things that go into it that can potentially help you win. And if those guys had 30, I think that would have been a very close fight. I really do. If they had a full roster, that could have been, we would have had to have been on our A game. Now, people are like, well, why don't you move up to Battlefield 3? And no, We'll move up when we have caps ready. The best way to play this mode, if you're looking to just strictly win and play by numbers, is to play to the battlefield where you can actually fill out the buildings as best as possible and just fight the other team. If the other team can't utilize their diamond units and you can't utilize yours, that's not a bad thing. That puts you on even ground for the most part, especially with how the matchmaking is based off the power system. When you go into like a Battlefield 4 or 5, and one, there's a lot less people there. I think between both Battlefields 4 and 5, there was maybe 340 guilds total. Battlefield 3, I think, had like 600, and then 2 and 1 had over the 1,000 mark. 2, I think, had like 1,500-ish, and 1 had almost like 5K. So, when you put yourself into these higher battlefields, you have to consider a couple of things. One, is your power level kind of in line with the typical opponents that you'll be facing there? Because you could still lose, but if you're going up against somebody with similar power, then it comes down to kind of like coordination and a couple other factors. If you got the med bay quicker than them, little things like that. If you are, for whatever reason, a small guild that's has no business being there, but you think you're gonna get a better payout or a lot more points, and you want to try these things here, you better you better have enough power to not be the lowest common denominator, because now I've seen it multiple times where the lowest common denominator tends to get paired up with somebody relatively strong. In Battlefield 3, CTS fought like a very, very low-end guild, and they kind of wondered why, and the reasoning is pretty simple. That guild was super low to the point where any of their other matches they had exhausted or were probably put off the table, or those guilds stepped down. They went to a different battlefield. Maybe they even went up. Who knows? They went somewhere else, and it forced a situation where TS was literally just for fun using one unit to clear entire defenses because of the disparity in power between the two. And that pisses me off, because those guys, they're there for an actual challenge. They're there to fight some solid guilds. They don't want to just walk all over somebody. I do. But you can't, I will never get mismatches that bad where I'm fighting, because of the amount of people signing up and how the system works on Battlefields 1 and 2. So, as messed up as things are, we're never going to get a situation that bad. The worst one, I think, was we had somebody with 25 instead of 30, and we did score very well because they had bots up in their front line, and on the white battle it was easy. But we're not going to see that type of disparity in our league, which is sad, because multiplier on points. I mean, if you get one of these give me guilds, especially on the high end, I watched somebody almost get 3 wipeouts on one of these guilds. Like, they had 960k points or something ridiculous, an astronomical number. Like my top end, I think it's like 565, and that was because they had the supply depot pretty close to the front lines. We were able to smash that open and get some bonus points. But could you imagine how unfun that was for a guild to score like 11k or 20k or whatever, while they got lapped twice and almost a third time? So, yeah, some of it could be on the system, but I also have to blame leadership of other guilds and not having an understanding of things. I don't get why you guys would realistically think that it's a good idea to go into these higher battlefields. If now, if everybody was up there, or if a lot of people were queued into them, okay, you'd probably get a pretty fair matchup every time, all six. But you gotta look at, because you can see everything I can see in terms of this mode. We're not different just because I'm a content creator. You can see, oh, there's only 130 people in Battlefield 3. Maybe my guild of 30 mil power or whatever probably shouldn't queue into there. That might be a bad idea. Instead, you got people like, well, maybe they're doing really good. Maybe they're like just placing really well and scoring really well and getting easy matches. Yeah, but every example I looked at, except one guild that was close to 100 mil power, which, I mean, hell, they could probably do Battlefield 3 pretty easy, but they're on the lower end in 5, and again, 92 mil power is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, I think we're at like 40 something for my guild, and we've been grinding hard for 8 months now. So, a lot of firepower there, and even by that mode standards, by that field standards, they don't stand a chance against some of the top contenders. It just isn't going to happen. So, I don't know what the takeaway here is, except that maybe there needs to be higher restrictions. I think the buildings are fine for right now. I wouldn't mind having some more variety. I do like what they did with the Vox Station, having that as an actual target that means something instead of just a throwaway isn't bad. The launching pads apparently at higher difficulties are killer, which that's good at least. For my difficulty, they're not too scary, but we'll see what they do with new buildings and stuff. And again, I'm going to reiterate this point, and I'm going to repeat this almost every guild video. I would love to see a cap of D1 in Battlefield 3. If that cap happened, I would gladly move my guild up to Battlefield 3. Because you can't sit here and tell me that going from G1 to D3 is the next logical step in terms of progression and battling. That's crazy. That's a heck of a jump. And some people just don't seem to get that to click, because it was like, oh, well, I'm getting close to 10 D3 units, and some guy's like, well, you should go to Battlefield 4. Like, no. No. I mean, I get people want to have fun with this mode. This mode is a time sink, and if it's going to sink my time, I'm going to want to win as much as possible. And, I will seal club. I don't care. If anybody wants to take a shot at me, come on down to Battlefield 2. You might have a bad time fighting against us. you may not. It may not turn out the way you think it's going to turn out, or we may get our asses kicked. But I've got like a 30-plus win streak, and you can't tell me that factors into the matchmaking. I think it's only based off each season, because there is no way there's another guild in Battlefield 2 that has that level of streak attached. We would have fought them at this point, essentially. And I don't think it has much bearing on the system. I think the system is mainly based off the power level enlistment, and once that breaks or doesn't have anything to match, then it gets really wonky. Then people really have a bad time. Well, one guild has a good time, and the other guild is like, why did we sign up for this? I thought this was going to be easy. So yeah, if you do see any more of these mismatches as we go, it is because of just two simple things. One, guild shouldn't have been there. The restrictions to get these higher tiers should be higher. I liked what they did with the barrier of entry for Guild Battlefield 1. They made it very minimal so everybody could join. I like that, because you've always had these guilds where they don't have a lot of people, they're not very coordinated, they're just playing, but they still like to do the mode. So Battlefield 1 having that low entry bar is perfect for them. But at the same time, I feel like there should be a higher entry bar on 5, because literally the entirety of war can simply be determined by top tier guild gets lowest ranked guild possible in said matchup bracket and just proceeds to score 900,000 points in one go on them and then get a hell of a multiplier. Like, that's, I don't know. A mode based off PvP, you probably should get more points for beating a harder opponent or somebody within your power level. Like, maybe that's something they could look at too to kind of offset it. Like, because again, but then the other thing is it's kind of not fair to the top end guild to be penalized because they got stuck with somebody who shouldn't be there. So yeah, I would ask for some higher restrictions to this mode. Probably 100 mil power to have to enter to play for 5, and I guess maybe 4 you could do like 75 or 50. But yeah, I don't know. There's some things they need to look at. Ultimately, though, the mode's come a long way. They've made some revisions. The auto enlistment works for the most part as long as you just make sure you hit that button after you do 5 matches. I went from having to worry about like 7 people enlisting to just one guy who forgot to hit the button twice. And then it was fixed. And then I never had to worry about it again. And I thank Snowprint for that, because having to like constantly poke people to sign up and make sure they're battle ready, it was stressful. Super stressful. Because I know what it's like to be down people. We see it happen to our opponents, and we see our opponents lose victory time and time again for not having a full team set up. And I don't know, maybe they could. It's hard because I've played a game before where I was able to just absolutely take the matchmaking system they used and turned it on their head to my advantage. And here, I feel like I didn't have to do that. The only thing I had to do was admit my own limitations for my guild and not worry about what other people wanted me to do. Like, oh, go to the higher battlefield. Yeah, eventually. Like, oh, do this instead. No. Like, why? Why would I do that? I've won like 4 or 5 seasons in a row nonstop. Why would I change tactics? Oh, for the potential of a slightly better box? It's not worth the calculated risk. If you were to tweak rewards or something for winning in some of these higher battlefields to make it interesting, sure, but at the same time, then that would invite more lower guilds trying to get a easier free win by hoping they get matched against somebody who also shouldn't be in that mode. So, just too many counterbalances to this thing. But anyway, I hope that if you do take away anything from this video, it's that just be careful, keep an eye on what your guild leader's doing, and see if he is throwing you into the deep end. Because again, I only had one scenario out of, I want to say 5 or 6, where the guild actually did really good, ranked well. I mean, top 100. It's nothing to be ashamed of. But again, then they were kind of like on the cusp of that mode in terms of battle readiness and everything, given their power. They weren't, vastly overpowered, outgunned, the whole 9 yards. But anyway, if anybody else wants to add data, or they want to share what their guild results were in terms of where they were, or have me take a look at it, let me know. Maybe some other guilds who really weren't supposed to be there had some insane luck with easier opponents because of people making that threshold, and you guys did well. Or maybe you got obliterated and you're not sure why. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this, because again, it does seem like there are some things that need to be done with matchmaking. We shouldn't have the same opponent twice in a bracket, even with 100-something people in a queue. It just makes no sense, because there should be at least somebody they can fight who isn't the same team again. But anyway, on that, I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.